Benchmarks for digital marketing, best practices in 2025. Digital marketing benchmarks are the new revenue baseline in 2025. Digital marketing isn't a supporting channel anymore. It's where most B2B demand is created, captured, and converted. Gartner reports that 61.1% of total marketing spend is going to digital channels in 2025, which means your good enough benchmarks now directly impact pipeline coverage and quota. If your team can't clearly explain whether performance is above or below market, you're essentially budgeting in the dark. The most common problem we see is that teams know their internal numbers, CPC, open rates, form fills, but don't know what those numbers mean. A 2% website conversion rate might be a healthy baseline for one motion and a major warning sign for another, depending on ACV, offer type, and traffic mix. Benchmarks remove the guesswork so you can stop debating opinions and start fixing constraints. In this guide, we're going to anchor on practical 2025 B2B benchmarks across website conversion, SEO, email and SDR outbound, paid media efficiency, and funnel stage conversion. The goal isn't to chase vanity metrics. It's to align marketing and sales around the few numbers that reliably predict pipeline, velocity, and customer acquisition cost. Benchmark the funnel stage, not just the channel. Channel benchmarks, like email opens or CTR, are useful, but they're incomplete on their own, especially in B2B. The average B2B customer journey is about 192 days, includes roughly 62 touchpoints, and involves an average of 6.3 stakeholders. With that much complexity, a single last-click lead view will undercount the channels that actually create demand and move deals forward. The best practice is to benchmark each stage: visitor to lead, lead to MQL, MQL to SQL, SQL to opportunity, and close rate. When you do that, diagnostics become obvious. If visitor to lead is weak, but MQL to SQL is strong, you likely have a traffic quality or conversion rate optimization problem, not an SDR execution problem. Conversely, if the site converts well, but SQL to opportunity is soft, your routing, qualification, or follow-up speed is usually the bottleneck. Benchmarks also create a shared language between teams. Pipeline 360 found that only about 50% of B2B marketers reported being on track to hit goals, but that number climbed to 80% with strong sales marketing alignment and a branded demand strategy. When both sides agree on definitions and target ranges, you get fewer arguments and faster iteration. Website and SEO benchmarks, where CAC is won or lost. For most B2B teams, the website is the highest leverage place to benchmark because it influences every channel's unit economics. In 2025, the average B2B website conversion rate is about 1.8%, which is one reason paid spend can inflate CAC quickly when landing pages and offers aren't dialed in. If you're consistently below 2%, treat that as a CRO and messaging problem before you treat it as a "we need more leads" problem. For B2B companies with higher ACVs, often cited as $5 ACV, visitor to lead averages around 1.5%, with 3% considered good and 5% plus considered great. Those great numbers usually come from pairing bottom funnel SEO, high-intent queries, with focused landing pages, clear proof points, and friction-reducing forms, not from publishing more generic top-of-funnel content. A practical way to operationalize this is to run quarterly CRO sprints on your top landing pages and measure lift by segment: ICP fit, channel, offer. If you can move a page from the average tier into the good tier, the lift compounds across paid search, LinkedIn traffic, email nurtures, and even direct traffic from brand demand. Email and SDR outbound benchmarks. Redefine what good looks like. Treat marketing nurtures and SDR outbound as different systems with different success criteria. Opted-in nurture email performance often looks lower than people expect, but it's frequently doing the right job, creating repeat touches that support a long buying cycle. In cold outbound, opens can be misleading due to privacy changes, so the clearest benchmarks are reply quality and meetings booked. For 2025 B2B cold email, realistic baselines are about 27.7% opens, 5.1% replies, and roughly 1% of sends converting into booked meetings. If your team is far below those ranges, the fastest fixes are usually list quality, segmentation, and deliverability, authentication, and reputation, not rewriting every template. This is also why many teams partner with an experienced SDR agency or cold email agency. The process discipline, targeting, testing, and follow-up often matters more than the copy. Operationally, benchmark outbound by segment and sequence type rather than judging your entire outbound sales agency motion with one blended number. A tight ICP list with multi-threading should outperform broad lists, and meeting booked rate is the KPI that most directly translates to pipeline. If you're running cold calling services alongside email, unify reporting so you can see how calls lift conversion on warm accounts that have already engaged with content or ads. Benchmarks don't replace strategy. They reveal exactly where your strategy is leaking revenue. Paid media benchmarks. Control costs before you scale spend. Paid search and paid social can absolutely accelerate growth, but only when your funnel can absorb the traffic efficiently. In B2B tech, one benchmark set reported an average Google Ads CPC of $8.86, an average conversion rate of 1.42%, and an average cost per conversion around $986. Those numbers make one thing clear. If your landing experience is average, scaling spend can scale inefficiency faster than it scales pipeline. Cost per lead is another reality check metric because it forces teams to reconcile volume with efficiency. Across industries, average CPL is about $198, with B2B technology leads averaging $208. The same research suggests SEO-led programs can reduce CPL by up to 60%. That doesn't mean turn off ads, but it does mean you should cap low-intent keywords and reinvest into SEO, landing page CRO, and tighter paid targeting that supports your ICP. The most overlooked lever in paid performance is post-click execution. If your paid conversion is expensive, your next move shouldn't just be new creatives. It should be faster follow-up, tighter MQL definitions, and an SDR motion that converts form fills into real meetings. Many teams see better unit economics when they pair paid with an outsourced sales team that can respond quickly and run structured sequences instead of letting leads sit idle. Common benchmarking mistakes that quietly sabotage pipeline. One of the biggest errors is using generic rules of thumb like a 2% conversion rate is fine for every funnel. A free trial sign-up, a webinar registration, and an enterprise demo request are fundamentally different asks, so their conversion ranges should be different too. The fix is to benchmark by offer type and deal size, then set stage targets that match your motion instead of borrowing B2C norms. Another costly mistake is judging channels only on last-click leads, especially when the buying cycle averages 192 days. SEO, content, and LinkedIn often create demand that converts later through direct traffic or branded search, so last-click reporting makes your future pipeline look like it came from nowhere. The solution is to use multi-touch attribution when you can, and at minimum, use assisted conversion reporting and opportunity source dashboards so channels get credit for their true contribution. Finally, teams routinely misread email performance by comparing B2B sequences to inflated global averages. With cold outreach, opens are not the goal and can be noisy. Reply rate and meeting booked rate are the metrics that map to pipeline. If you're running a pay-per-appointment lead generation model or evaluating cold calling companies, insist on segment-level booked meeting benchmarks and downstream conversion, SQL to opportunity, not just activities or sends. Optimization best practices. Improve conversion, then improve velocity. Once you've benchmarked each stage, prioritize the one performing more than 20 to 30% below target and fix it first. If visitor to lead is lagging under the 1.5% to 3% band, run structured CRO experiments on the pages that drive the most pipeline. Offer clarity, proof, CTA, form friction. If your website is healthy but meetings aren't converting, focus on speed to lead, qualification, and sequence design. Because journeys span 62 touchpoints on average, always-on multi-channel nurture is what turns interested into ready. Practical nurture means your SEO content answers bottom-funnel questions, retargeting reinforces category fit, email nurtures deliver proof and use cases, and SDR follow-up creates the human moment that converts intent into a meeting. This is also where combining B2B cold calling services with targeted email can outperform either channel alone, because the buyer experiences consistent messaging across formats. At SalesHive, we've found that the highest performing teams keep a shared weekly scorecard across marketing and sales, so changes are made quickly. The point isn't to track everything, it's to track the minimum set that explains performance. Visitor to lead, MQL to SQL, meeting held rate, cost per opportunity by channel, and close rate by source. When these are reviewed together, the marketing versus sales debate usually disappears and the funnel improves faster. What to do next? Build your 2025 benchmark cadence. Start by pulling the last 6 to 12 months of data and mapping it to your funnel stages. Don't stop at leads. Carry the analysis through to opportunities and closed won so you can see where volume turns into revenue. Then compare your ranges to the core benchmarks. 1.8% average website conversion, 1.5% average visitor to lead for higher ACV B2B motions, and 27.7% for 5.1% for 1.0% for cold email opens, replies, /meetings. Next, set targets that match your economics and resourcing. If paid search is expensive, for example, near $986 per conversion in some B2B tech benchmarks, you'll get more leverage by improving conversion and follow-up before increasing spend. If your team can't execute the volume and personalization required, it may be time to hire SDRs or partner with a sales development agency, outbound sales agency, or B2B sales outsourcing provider that can run disciplined testing and consistent follow-up. Finally, revisit benchmarks on a schedule, annual resets for planning, and quarterly reviews for optimization. Digital costs and buyer behavior shift quickly, so treat benchmarks as living guardrails rather than a one-time audit. When your funnel is benchmarked end-to-end, you can reallocate budget with confidence, align teams with fewer meetings, and consistently turn digital investment into predictable pipeline.